Welcome to this new panel discussion organized by the Global Supply Chain Council on today's topic, which is around e-commerce logistics and last mile delivery with a focus on the APAC region. My name is Max Henry, and I'm going to be your host today, and I'm very pleased to have you joining us for this new discussion again that we organize on a regular basis, as some of you know. And we, of course, are very interested in what's happening around e-commerce logistics. Before I let the panelists introduce themselves, I just want to remind all of you that this is going to be an interactive session. So again, if you have any questions, you can ask it at any time. We have already prepared a couple of topics, but we welcome those questions. And you can ask them by just clicking on the question mark button located at the bottom of the screen. This will open the live Q&A tab. And on this, you'll be able to ask your question. And like I said, we will prioritize them as they come. This discussion is just going to be 55 minutes. So if you're, again, worried about having your next meeting at 5 p.m. Hong Kong, Singapore, no worries. We'll make sure to wrap up before that so you can get ready for your next call and meeting. And we'll keep it brief and just follow the time. So before we get started with our own topic, I'd like to maybe give a chance to our panelists to introduce themselves. Maybe we'll start with you, Jaspreet, and then you can just unmute yourself and say a quick welcome here. Go ahead, yeah, welcome.
Hello, hi everyone. I'm Jaspreet, known as JD in the market. I'm the principal solution architect at FarEye. Been in the industry for more than 15 years and love every moment of e-commerce logistics. They're the one has taken the whole industry and taking everyone and technology to the next level. So really looking forward to this session. Thank you everyone who joined in.
Thank you, Jaspreet. Okay, next we have Rustam. Hi, hello Rustam. Go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, Max, and hi everyone. Welcome to this panel. Really excited to share some insights and also gain them. My background is in e-commerce, more than 15 years. Latest experience with Alibaba, Lazada, and Custom. I'm particularly interested in warehousing, fulfillment operations, and logistics in e-commerce. Really happy to be on this panel.
Great to see you, Rustam. Okay, next we have Albert also joining us. Welcome, Albert. Go ahead, yeah.
Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Albert. Right now, I'm acting as Sales and Solutions Director for Locus for Southeast Asia market. But previously, I've actually working 6 years in Bukalapak, one of the biggest e-commerce in Indonesia, specifically in the O2O business as the head of supply chain. So yeah, again, e-commerce and logistics just something that is inseparable from my career. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert. Okay, and we have also Ali joining us. Welcome.
Hi everyone, my name is Ali. I'm currently working at Daraz, an e-commerce company, also an Alibaba-owned company. I have prior experience in shipping, quick commerce, and e-commerce as well. Been in the industry for approximately 14 to 15 years. Look forward to interacting with all of you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ali. Okay, and we have also another panelist who's trying to join. And so if you see another person joining this call, no worries. We'll try to get that person's name, Shruti, to join and take part in the discussion. So let's hope that she can make it. So again, for those who are just joining, I want to remind you that this is going to be an interactive session. So if you have any questions for our panelists, feel free to ask at any time. You can go do so by clicking on the question mark button located at the bottom of the screen, and we'll prioritize those questions. So again, feel free to ask at any time. But let me start with some of our topics that we prepare for this discussion. And just to start off, I would like to maybe get you to describe what is the current state of e-commerce logistics and what do you think has changed, more in particular in the last 12 to 18 months? Anyone?
Yeah, maybe I can start this off if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
In my current role as a D2C fulfillment manager for Electrolux brand, we are really looking into accelerating our online footprint in Asia. And some of these changes that we see in the past 12 to 18 months are really, um, create challenges for overall fulfillment, especially when we work with marketplaces. Let me be a bit more specific, maybe. We see in the past 6 months, specifically in Thailand, Shopee as a marketplace forcing sellers to use their last mile delivery service providers like Shopee Express for certain category of products, right? Which is basically saying that, hey, you don't have a choice. If you want to sell, you must use this last mile solution that we have, whether it fits our brand positioning or not. That's out of discussion, right? So this really gives us a sense that we see a bit of um, um, stronger positioning of marketplace demands into cornering sellers, all sellers, to use and services by these marketplaces, the in-house services like fulfillment operations, last mile deliveries, right? And with that comes challenges like specifically for brands where we have quite a specific request in terms of customer experience, installations, management for home appliances, right? And we see this trend starting to catch on. We see that marketplaces are like Shopee are leading profitability by squeezing everyone into their logistic network. Which on positive side, you get some of the probably most compatible rate cards in terms of cost, right? On the not so positive side, this gives more complexity where, for example, the same logistic network cannot manage the major appliances, right? So now we have to split it, our operations into several partners and several carriers. That creates a challenge in itself, right? Orchestrating between different category of products, carriers, SLAs. So what we also see that if you don't follow the SLAs, your sales channel will become more and more at risk, right? So this is not something new, but it has started to enforce the more strictly for the penalty points. What I mean is fulfillment is becoming a very SLA sensitive if you want to operate on these platforms, up to the point where when you are not able to fulfill according to a certain SLA, you are being punished by not participating in campaigns, not being able to even sell on the same platform if you get certain points. This makes also the demands that we put on our 3PLs more high, which also comes with a higher cost, right? Of course, these SLAs need to input and invest more and more resources from our 3PLs as well. So these are some of the developments we see, and that at the back of it, of course, with more stakeholders involved in the whole supply chain process, from fulfillment to last mile delivery to installation. We also see the challenge in terms of backend, like more systems involved that need to be integrated, more data flows. All of that is also creating more challenges for brands to really sell on these multiple online channels in Asia. I think these are the trends that we see from our brand perspective. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much. Anybody else on this? You seen any change? Yeah. Yeah, Ali.
Yeah, so just building on what Rustam mentioned, right? So holistically, what has happened is in the last 12 to 18 months, we've been defined by volatility and adaptation, right? So what does this mean? Like post pandemic era, we saw some stabilization, but while the complexity of supply chains increased, like Rustam just mentioned, what also happened on the customer side is their expectations remained high. So we did see the need for more faster, more flexible solutions that the customers were expecting. That we set the expectation bar very high in during COVID, when those 15-minute and 20-minute delivery solutions came out. But what has happened in the last 12 to 18 months, the appetite for burn has gone down. Like Rustam also mentioned, we're more driven by better margins. So everyone's being squeezed. Every stakeholder within the supply chain journey is being squeezed. E-commerce, traditionally, the mindset has always been, because in COVID, that's what we set, that every seller can come on board and make a lot of money, but that's not how easy it is to make money, right? The idea is volumes, higher volumes, thinner margins, and that's how you drive your business on e-commerce. And that's what the expectation is being set, which in terms of the ability with suppliers and other stakeholders like 3PLs is not going very well, because we've set a habit. Now we're reverting from a habit that we ourselves set it up. And I think that's what's happening in the 12 to 18 months. And the interesting part is there's an aspect of 12 to 18 months, and there's an aspect of the last 3 months where the world has become even more volatile. There are different wars, different things that are even disrupting the supply chain. So that's something that we're also adapting to. So post pandemic, I feel there's a lot more adaptation required to keep your supply chains intact as compared to pre-pandemic era. In fact, it's been so fast that I don't think anyone can recall what pre-pandemic era was like. That's the journey how it's been over the last 12 to 18 months.
Interesting. Yeah. So a lot of
Yeah.
people are being squeezed and being pushed like Rustam say, just to push people into certain things. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Jasprit, yeah. What's your take
So
on
I'll
this?
just
Yeah.
like, yeah, so especially last to 12 months, I think the in e-commerce is slowly shifting towards Q. It's all about quick commerce now. People are expecting how can we get it in 10 to 15 minutes without paying additional delivery fee. So I think while e-commerce way back pre-pandemic was more, let's start giving free services, I think quick service is kind of focusing there. People are now started expecting not just groceries but also iPhones to be delivered in 10-15 minutes. uh, and the worst part is companies are actually investing that. Don't know how sustainable this is going to be. Eventually this is just creating another funding wave maybe. But I think in the next maybe another 12 to 18 months, things will change. The second thing, of course, if you go to see supply chain, earlier it was always there. When e-commerce as a B2C medium came in, things disrupted again. Something very similar with AI, it's happening. AI was always there behind with inventory management, scheduling, be it route optimization. It was very B2B centric. Now with Gen AI, with Chat GPTs and all coming in, and now since it's more B2C driven, like everyone can see AI, I think AI is taking a very big role in e-commerce logistics. People still think somewhere a Gen AI will work, but I think it's more about traditional models just getting more enhanced to fulfill. Yeah. So just a quick take on something different, what already other members have mentioned. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Albert, what's your take? What have you seen happening in Indonesia in the last year? Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, another thing in Indonesia happened in my previous company where I work, where the mode is now into path to profitability all of a sudden, right? 7 years ago, everything is about experimental, how we can actually make things move fast, how can we automate this and that. But eventually, like those kind of innovation actually being pulled for the sake of that profitability. So that's something true to be told because to ensure the sustainability of the business. But what I like to also emphasize differently is regarding to the new sales channel being built by social media right now, right? Because purchasing something from Instagram, purchasing something from I don't know YouTube stores, maybe it's not really relevant a few years ago, but now with TikToks actually comes into places, people all of a sudden actually increasing some additional volumes in a very very low MOQs. I've actually have some experiences with some of the beauty brand, which actually supporting specifically delivery to KOL, which in terms of the volume is similar with like a 1 month worth of volumes to regular e-commerce platform. So I mean, for the QL, like delivering only one particular lipstick, one particular type of essay is something that is more common right now. So I think we need to be very cautious about the drifted on the new emerging sales channel, which is TikTok shops and those kind of folks, which actually could increase also about the complexity how we doing the supply chain. But in the same time, it's actually increased the economy of scale. Specifically, when you talk about aggregations of the CEP, let's say, with this kind of huge wave of volume coming from those kind of sales channel, might be something that can improve the bottom line as well. So that's my key points.
Thank you very much. Okay, so again, I see some people are still joining this discussion. If you are just joining this event, I just want to remind you that we're going to take questions. So if you want to ask questions to the panelists, you can just click on the question mark button located at the bottom of the screen, and we will take those questions as they come. We prioritize those questions during that session, so feel free to ask at any time. So when you think about the biggest challenge in last mile delivery today, what keeps you at night? Cost, speed, customer expectations, infrastructure? What is your biggest worry?
Maybe I can start with, again, with the same theme of balancing between becomes efficient or responsive, right? That's always the two polars in supply chains, whether we want to make things very efficient in order to ensure a safe bottom line with the cost, or again, the like Jaspreet mentioned, E becomes Q now, becomes so much responsive, but we don't know whether this is something that's sustainable or not. But then again, I think that kind of situation sometimes really pushed us into the corner how we can actually balance both sides. One of the thing, actually, something that comes in several of the industries is that they so in Indonesia, there's one quick commerce players. I cannot actually mention the name, which actually they try to reduce that kind of expectations of the SLAs. So now they're actually not providing the 10 minutes, 15 minutes delivery, but in some of the SKUs that is still required but not that urgent, they balance it using like same day delivery models. So I think the thing that worries some of the player between responsive and efficient, some of the player right now have been finding out like a sweet spot in between. Maintaining several SKUs still can be done as a quick commerce 10 to 15 minutes. The other way, maybe still same day, but still maintain some expectations on that point.
Thank you, Albert. Yeah. Anybody else on this? Yeah. Yeah, Ali?
Uh, Something similar to what Abu said, but I'll phrase it in terms of balancing customer expectations in terms of SLA with cost to serve, right? Uh, and while I completely agree with everyone that there will be a time where it gets defined in terms of what's the right balance in terms of SLA, but I believe at some point in time there will be a charge for a service that requires faster delivery. Right now it's like a free delivery model where everyone's just pushing a model, but I think there's going to be a balance where normal delivery, like there in the West, there are certain countries that are already doing this, but eventually it's going to replicate all over Asia as well, where there is a line as to 15 to 20% of your volumes go through a quick commerce sort of a model, and eventually they're charged because of the service type that a customer requires that fast of a delivery, and that's going to be eventually something that's happening. But right now, as the times are tough with respect to margins, I think that's the cost to serve with SLA that keeps us up at night.
Okay.
Yeah,
Rustam? Yeah.
I can add a bit on this. For us, also doesn't make sense to continue this um, like efficiency or speed is everything kind of mantra that has driven really e-commerce growth in the past, let's say 10, 20 years in APMEA. And we see also a bit more cautious approach where, do we really need it for all products, right? Like, can for example, specifically for home appliances, larger appliances, they need a lot of preparation and planning, right? It's not that you can just bring a big washing machine with a dryer and drop it off at the doorstep in next hour. This is not sustainable. But we also see we don't see this market from marketplaces an adjustment in terms of expectations for this SLS, because these really matter to customer experience. We need to understand the needs of the customers, availability of customers, and also at the same time, I agree that the cost is another factor. Delivering this kind of category of products requires a very complex operation with more cost involvement, right? Sometimes customers don't want that. They are happy to wait for another week and do it in a more, let's say, on a scheduled time, uh, and at a cheaper cost. Those kind of differentiation needs to happen also in Asia, where if you want something fast, pay for it, no questions asked, we'll deliver it, but don't expect it for free, right? This is something that needs to be also passed on to educate the customers in Asia. We see a similar we see that actually already in Europe, where if you want very fast next day delivery with 4-man installation to be done, there is extra charge for it, and you pick it up and no questions asked. You'll get the best premium experience. And if you don't want, you don't have to, and then you can get it at a cheaper cost. Today in Asia, unfortunately, everything is being taught to our customers that whatever you order is going to be free of charge to deliver. And slowly we started to see this change in specifically in food deliveries. Before you had that only small cost, but now you have 3 different options. Do you want it very fast, on average, or do you want it very slow? And then depending on what you choose, you'll be expected to pay more or less. And hopefully we will see that kind of development also coming to marketplaces in more granularity, depending on what kind of category of products you're saying. I don't think Q-commerce is for every category.
Okay, thank you, Rustam. Yeah, Jasprit, what's your take on this? Yeah.
Just a quick one. I think in some markets that kind of, everyone is toying around as to how can they just get into the mind of the consumer to start getting cost as a very acceptable thing, the service delivery cost. I think every company right now is working how they can figure that out. Like as Rustam mentioned, you want it fast, you pay X, you want slow, do half a X and all. In certain regions, what they've started to do, they're just smartly trying to add multiple cost layers. Someone is calling. So I've done a few orders somewhere. They say platform fee, handling cost, taxation, midnight delivery cost. So I think every company now is focusing more on how can they start, giving that factor that, hey guys, you need to start paying. They're coming with different models. But I think taking on the baseline, what Albert also stated in the start, it's actually a balance of cost, speed, and customer expectation. Uh, right now, I think what the customer needs to understand that out of these 3 things, you can just get any of the 2. So let's say you want expectations, your way and speed, you better compromise on cost. You want value and better cost, you better compromise on speed. So I think it's the balance is key, but customers need to understand 2 out of 3 to just make it more sustainable. Until someone will burn. And lastly, I think the big organizations need to really focus, as Europe and all these companies have started. I think APAC, it's high time that people start considering service fee as a very norm, just for it to survive more efficiently. Yeah, I think that's my take.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we have some questions already, and let me start. If you again click on the question mark button, you will see those questions. This is for the panelists, and you can start to look at it. So let me spotlight some of the questions, and we're going to take them one by one. Maybe we'll start with a question here from Sanjeev, and let me put this on the screen, or maybe you can see it if it's working. Yes, it's coming up. All right. Sanjeev is asking, given the urge in e-commerce and quick commerce in APAC and specifically in India, the platforms are optimizing by lower MOQ and increased frequency of service. With increased margins by this platform, how do manufacturers optimize to reduce cost to serve to maintain profitability through this channel? Long question, but interesting. Anybody would like to comment or answer that? I'm giving you some time just to look at that question. Yeah, just right here.
I think I'll just take from an India perspective. So right now, they're not trying to maintain profitability. They're just burning their hands to get customers used to the whole quick commerce, and they're doing a fantastic job. People are now ready to go buy fashion as well in the next 10 minutes. They don't want to go there. Everyone is investing there. So I think right now they're in that phase of burning. And as I rightly said, from a cost to serve, they're just planning to add more in different types of service costs. Eventually, it will stabilize. There would be maybe some theory of how today logistics company charges for cash on delivery. It's X% of flat fee, whichever is higher or lower, something like that. I think that's a model that will survive. But yeah, again, quick commerce would also further not just be 10 minutes. People are okay with 60 minutes as well. Today, I as a customer, I don't need it in 10 minutes. I'm okay with 30 as long as you give me a cheaper cost for it and it's a sustainable model. So I think that's my take, where certain level of consolidation of maybe from a 10-minute to a 1 hour delivery and changing the perception of the customer.
Okay, thank you very much, Esprit. Anybody else would like to react? Yeah, Rustam?
Just 2 cents. I think eventually we'll realize that if you want quick commerce or fast delivery, you will have to pay the cost as a customer. Don't expect that brands will always just absorb the cost at whatever you request. It will not happen. I think eventually we're going to move towards where services will be there, customer will have an option, what they want, and at which cost.
Okay. All right, good. Anybody else would like to respond to this? No? Okay, good. All right, let's move on to the next question. We have a lot of them coming already. So let me put this next one. Question from Nadia. Again, she said very practical. How do you deal with no-show delivery or fail attempts in tier 2 or tier 3 cities? I'm not sure in which country she's based, but that's probably applicable to different countries in Asia. Yeah, Ali?
I can take that. So I've had that problem based on my experience with courier companies, right? So there are certain mechanisms where you can give customer the leverage of raising this, escalating this whenever something happens, right? So if you have a very comprehensive uh, customer journey mapped out, where customer gets intimations whenever a delivery is on the way or it's out for delivery, the customer would always know that I should be expecting a delivery, and if something doesn't happen, for them to escalate it. If it's through an e-commerce, if it's through a platform, it's very easy. If it's through an Instagram channel, it becomes a little more difficult because you don't have that communication mapped out. So usually what courier companies also do is they have a mechanism where it's a live control tower system where all deliveries and all status updates are validated in terms of fake attempts, failed deliveries as well. For instance, when a rider marks something as failed delivery or failed attempt, certain companies either use text messages to intimate the customer that XYZ reason we weren't able to contact you, we weren't able to reach out to you, or even IVR messages, which is the automated call, which sends out a notification to the customer that we reached out, you weren't available. And if that doesn't validate, the customer automatically comes back to you and says that, guys, no one reached out to me or no one contacted me. And that has to be indirectly linked to the compensation scorecard or whatever there is for the respective riders in terms of being counted as either a penalty or a lower score, which results in a lower compensation to actually discourage this behavior.
Okay. Anybody else
And
would like to? Yeah, I bet, yeah.
yes, and just to add, I mean, there's an interesting motions right now in at least in Indonesia that there are two parts to reduce this point. First thing is actually collaborating with local kiranas, local mom and pop stores, to become drop points. Let's say when you talk about IKEA, Indonesia, IKEA collaborating with DFI, giant supermarket hypermart as the meeting points or drop points for those items. So it's actually minimizing the risk coming from the failed attempts. At least whenever the customer is ready to pick up, they can actually pick up to that critical point. But for specifically tier 2 and tier 3 cities, they're actually collaborating with local mom and pop stores, for sure with incentive later on, for them to become like a meeting point. The second part, I think this is pretty much emerging right now, is using pop-up box. So it's like a locker, smart locker kind of thing, right? So that smart locker is actually located in tier 2, tier 3 city terminals. And then whenever the orders actually coming in, it can actually being put there. And eventually the customers actually pick it up. So it actually minimizes also the pressure coming from the 3PLs to do reverse logistic, which is for sure it's a costly things, right? Specifically for a very small amount of items. So that can actually, very practical points to reduce this fail attempts itself. That's my key points.
Okay. Anybody else would like to comment on this? Yeah, Jaspreet?
I think a couple of places where I've seen something interesting working is, let's say there's a no show, and of course mobility solution being part of it. The drivers can't update a no show till the time there is a call attempt made to that particular customer, even if he's not answering, but at least there is a call log check. So this way, at least we're trying to avoid the fudginess that the drivers are doing. Second, another very interesting trend that I saw was, while today people talk a lot about route optimization, but still there are these countries in APAC where it's not possible due to address quality and multiple other factors as well. uh, we've come across a pattern where what companies are doing is, maybe they're not telling us exactly which 2 hour slot, but at least giving that visibility to the customer. Is it going to be a morning delivery, an afternoon delivery, or an evening delivery? Typically, by which run is he going in, when is he scanning that parcel, based on the sequence that he's going to manual sequence that he's going to go on. So these certain small tech initiatives, which are not revolutionary, but they're definitely at least adding more correctness in the kind of data that's getting in, and reducing these no show and failed attempts, especially in tier 2, tier 3, because that's not very tech infused as a setup as well.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for those questions. Let's move on to Ali. You wanted to add something? Sorry, I saw you're unmuting.
I was just about to say that Jaspreet just added some context to the question that Aisha asked. That's also a queued up question.
Okay,
Uh,
okay, all right.
yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next question. This is a question from Yanisa. Any tips on managing cost spikes from sudden demand surge during online campaigns? Anybody would like to take it? Yeah, Ali. Yeah.
So I'll try to frame it in a way where we can see it. So surges are expected when you're doing campaigns. Surges are expected, but what we also try to do is it's also not sustainable that if you do 1.5x of the campaign forecast, then you don't have that kind of last mile capacity as well, right? So what we also try to look at is from a promise time standpoint. So right after a certain capacity, we already know that this is already beyond our capacity, so we start tweaking the promise time that is showing to the customers on the front end to balance between our cost and expectation, right? So while the order is coming in, the order of is of no use if it eventually does not deliver, because that's the gross to net battle that we all fight. And in fact, it is actually worse off because you actually take it through the supply chain, incur the cost, and it eventually does not deliver, right? So you also need to start playing with the promise time of the customers. That's where you actually balance it out. Other than that, what we also plan for, we have a flex. We've played around with a flex delivery model as well, which is your part timers that can be brought on board to balance out certain trade-offs when you actually want more and more to be pushed out. So that is always there. But again, it is something that should be in very much close proximity of your P&L numbers. If it takes you on the red side, then that's not something that should be done. Then you need to clear out the expectations in terms of customers so that you can manage the upcoming orders that are inflowing.
Good point. Yeah. Anybody else would like to comment on this question? Yeah, Albert. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the common battle between supply chain logistics and sales or merchandising. Yeah. Because the word sudden, I think is something that everything can be prevented, everything can be planned, even though sometimes planned oftenly wrong. Yeah, but at least we prepare for the worst. But from my experience, I think we need to manage expectations with merchandising team, whichever SKU that we want to do some promotions about it. So we balance between the promotions for, let's say, slow moving items, and then the promotions with, let's say, like a new incoming items to just boost some availability of the new products and so on and so forth. So I think the predictability, maybe it's not directly coming from the delivery process itself, but the readiness of the items, of the inventory level that we have in the warehouse, whether this is something that is manageable or not. If it's actually manageable, the items already there, we can actually do like pre-picking for those kind of items so that we can actually avoid, a lot of long lead time during pick and pack and just causing fiasco. So managing costs actually can start for sure from the upstream of the supply chain, including the readiness of the SKU, the type of SKU, then the predictability for all the delivery. I think something that can be managing about. Specifically like what Ali mentioned regarding to flexibility on the customer's SLA with disclaimers or maybe with discount exchange if something late. So minimizing that kind of very strict promise to the customers is also good to manage costs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Jaspreet.
I think just one small point that I'd like to lay is that when demand surges are kind of good at some level, But in the whole ecosystem, from a last mile delivery, a simple recommendation would be don't make too many enemies in that space. In terms of don't put all your eggs in one basket, that this is the last mile delivery partner that's the cheapest for me, so I'm going to put in all my load there. Because when you're going to get that demand spike, your second partner is not going to listen to you. So I think it's more about some level of distribution. It's fine you're taking that constant hit on your profit margins because you're giving it to a slightly expensive carrier. But when the time is tough, I think having multiple carriers in your kitty would really help. So it's just kind of balancing things out on that front.
Yeah, make sure to balance everything. Yeah, that's important. Yeah. Rustam, you wanted to add
Yeah,
something? Yeah.
yeah, indeed. I think when we look at the cost of fulfillment for the online channels, right? We have the warehousing fulfillment operation and we have last mile. There were a couple of good comments here already added by Albert and Jasprit, as well as Ali. It all starts with the commercial and operations team really strategizing together. Don't let commercial plan fantastic sales strategy with pricing and content being managed so well and operation being in the dark, not knowing what's happening, what's going to go right. Um, um, then so the forecast doesn't need to be 100%, but at least 80% is good enough. 70% is helpful also, so that people can plan the resource on the operation side. In the warehouse inside, make sure there was mention of pre-packing or your top sales SKUs. Pre-stage them already, pre-label them already. Also cross-train your warehousing staff. If you are using a 3PL, then ask them to cross-train their staff. The people who are inbounding your SKUs into the warehouse before the campaign, they will be doing nothing during outbound. So cross-train them to be able to do outbound. Or similarly, stop any unnecessary non-value add to the campaign activities, such as returns, for example. QC, you can handle them later. Communicate that also to customers to expect delays, right? So, and last but not least, if you are not sure in your operations, don't sell, because selling and not delivering to your customer experience, it will be more lasting than to squeeze that extra dollar on the sales campaign.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right. Well, we have a lot more questions coming, and we don't we're not going to have much time left. Thank you for all your questions. So let's take them one by one again, and appreciate if each of the panelists can be concise and short in the answer. Let's move on to the next one. Someone is asking, how are you dealing with driver shortage, especially in remote or island locations? For those located or dealing with island logistics?
I think
Yeah.
Albert would be the best one with islands.
Yeah, Albert. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we did this kind of situation, and sometimes when in the the cornering situations, we've been creative, right? So again, when I mentioned about partnership with mom and pop stores, they're everywhere, right? And then there's not only about waiting in their stores to do some retail operations, but sometimes they have sons, they have cousins, they have anybody in the neighborhood that can do supporting us as a partner. So maybe the common word is crowdsourcing. So when it comes to delivering to remote islands and everything, don't rely only on the local, conventional 3PL or CPs because they have limitations, right? But start building network with local peoples there, starting with local governments or maybe at least from the local mom and pop stores, and then making them as your micro fulfillment partner. I'm actually seeing the questions about micro fulfillment. Then actually, it's not only about fulfillment on orders itself, and then doing some stockings and so on and so forth, but also your delivery partner as well. Therefore, at least in several of the key areas where you actually trusted with the local partners and everything, you can actually reduce your anxiety level to have the kind of dealing with this sort of situations. Then this crowdsourcing actually works perfectly, specifically right now, gig economy is everywhere, right? Everybody wants to get some dollars coming from anything. So I think this is something that we can do as the business contingency plan, at least.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah. Yeah, just wait.
Just a small point. And when you're trying to manage this driver shortage, give them a flavor that they're a franchisee of the business and not an employee. Somewhere in remote and these island locations, they still have that inbuilt thing. I want to do something of my own. So giving them that franchisee feel that, hey, it's your business, it's your baby, I think that just gets motivated for a long-lasting relation with them.
Yeah, this is a good tip. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next question. So talking about fulfillment, micro fulfillment, yeah, someone is asking, Brian is asking, is investing in micro fulfillment really worth it if volumes are still unpredictable? Anybody would like to take this question? Rustam, yeah.
The short answer, I don't think so. And I also think that micro fulfillment is not for every category of product. Again, I would like to mention that FMCG products, probably yes, fast moving grocery kind of products where you know the demand is there. Even if you cannot predict to a high level, you know there is a constant demand, right? But for some other products where demand is unpredictable, you're just going to end up with a lot of cost and inventory being misallocated in those facilities if you're planning to store this inventory there. Whereas in other regions, let's say part of the country, are there is a spike in inventory demand, and you now you know 30% of the inventory is just stuck in the micro fulfillment centers. I think if you don't have visibility, you don't have clear understanding, I would discourage you to go through for micro fulfillment unless you have clear high sales products and you know you can you have a high stock inventory that you can leverage and balance it a little bit, take that risk.
Okay. Do you guys agree on the micro fulfillment or disagree with Rustam? Ali, yeah?
Agreed with Rustam, yeah.
Okay.
If your
All
goal
right.
is to look for funding and grow bigger, then right now it's really worth investing. That's what investors are looking for, such kind of business models. So it typically depends what your goal is in this setup.
Okay. Albert, do you agree or disagree with Rustam on this?
Depends on the point. But then again, from the perspective of, let's say you own a lot of real estates, you have like free spaces and everything, right? Um, I mean, right now 3PLs, even 4PLs, which essentially they don't have any facilities, actually very open in that kind of uh, crowdsourcing model, as I mentioned earlier, right? So let's say in the perspective of when we talk about investment, but not in that kind of startup investment, but you as investors who have a lot of real estate, a lot of empty spaces and everything. I mean, collaborating with 4PL as your strategic partner might be something that's still useful right now. Because again, coverage from the perspective of the FMCG player, they want to ensure that their product available anywhere, right? So as long as you have a very strategic places, specifically in those maybe second or third tier city, collaborating with the right 4PL or 3PL might be something worth a shot. But if you want to create startups specifically on micro fulfillment, yes, like Jaspreet mentioned, this is not a good time to do so. But as someone who has spaces that you want to invest on it, maybe there's something worth a shot. Collaborating with
Yeah.
4 or 3PLs.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next question. Uh, Aisha is asking, what role does customer communication play in reducing failed last mile delivery? I think someone mentioned that already. But yeah, Ali, yeah.
Yeah, I think Jaspreet already mentioned that having that slot communication or that visibility based on predictability on when the rider is being dispatched for the customer can really help. And I completely align with this in terms of customer communication. The more informed the customer is when the delivery is coming, the better the chances are that it will get delivered, right? Uh, Apart from when it's collection point, when collection point, then they have the luxury of just having that communication that guys, it's been dropped. You have next 3 days to pick it up. That's the flexibility that the customer has from the collection point. But the more informed you can keep the customer, but this is a very tricky line, right? There is keeping them well informed, and then there's spamming. So you need to draw that line and as to communicate with the customer and understand what the expectation is, how well informed they want to be, and also what the message entails. Right, your order is at the sort center is of no value to the customer. The customer doesn't know where the sort center is. The customer doesn't know what the next step is. The customer is more interested when the order will be delivered. So, redefining or re-predicting delivery timelines, whenever there is an internal delay, to recommunicate the expected delivery timeline, that's more important for the customer. But telling them where the package is within your supply chain might not be as important. So maybe mask certain aspects of those journeys to make them more customer relevant is also important. But it definitely adds value for the customer and improves your success rate at the end, last mile.
And should this communication led by the logistic service provider or the actual marketplace or the merchant itself, or how do you what do you
I
prefer?
think
What do you recommend?
to keep the consistency of the communication for the marketplace, it should be led by marketplace, which should be through API integration. The status of the 3PL partner should also be synced, and then eventually customer should be communicated in one similar manner. It should not happen that if you give it to one partner, the messages are different, and if you give it to another partner, the messages are different. So keeping that consistency is also important.
Yeah, but then you need to be able to get that information from the logistic partner, right? So if you communicate, you need to communicate the right data and the right information.
Yes, yes,
Otherwise, you're gonna piss off everyone, right? Yeah, Rustam,
yeah.
yeah, you wanted to add something?
I wanted to say that it's extremely challenging to have that communication being with the platform when you are near and at the same time maintaining the quality and the standard you just mentioned to manage the customer experience so that they have the unique same consistent experience when they buy on Shopee or TikTok or Lazada or your branded web store. So this is, in my opinion, it's better to really have an integration between platforms that will direct your customer specific queries to your brand or to your positioning as a company, uh, uh, and have that unified into a group of customer service specialists that will be specialized on your product, on your messaging, right? I don't think marketplaces have that ability or flexibility to cater that kind of messaging on your behalf. In most cases, it's very generic. They will just deal it as a just next ticket, and good luck with that. So, in my opinion, in 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 API integrated solutions that will deliver multi or omni-channel ticketing to one base that will handle the customized branding messages.
Mm. Yeah, Jaspreet, yeah.
Yeah, I think another very important thing, it's not just customer communication, it's more about customer engagement. Simple things like before the dispatch has happened, you want to reschedule your order to a different date. Something which you took as a cash on delivery in certain markets, do you want to convert and do the payment while the delivery attempts are going on? Or as well as canceling the order. I think it's not just limited to communication today, it's also more about customer engagement. I think that's another very important thing that helps in reducing failed last mile deliveries.
Mm. Yeah, clearly it sounds very tricky. I mean, we're dealing with multiple marketplaces and multiple logistic partners and across a lot of different type of merchants, probably this part is quite difficult to achieve. Yeah. All right, let's move on. We have more questions. We only have less than 10 minutes to go, so I want to take as many questions as we can. Someone's asking, what tech stack do you actually use for real-time visibility? Not very like real tool players.
Yeah. I think there are two great tools in the market. One is FarEye and one is Locus. You should try both of them out.
Makes sense, yes.
I think they're doing a good job. So yeah, those are actual tools. Again, it's today depending what kind. It's more of a build versus buy kind of a setup. There are a lot of tools in the market. It's very easy. People are really are, to be honest, the needle is moving more towards buying rather than building, because building just solves your level one problem, whereas getting a tech stack which is actually good in this matter, they have a roadmap, they know how to expand, and it's again not theory. We can uh, on this we can put something on the chat as well, which are those tools. But yeah, there are multiple ways of real time. It could be through different IoT devices, fuel sensors, GPS. So that goes on and on. I think that's all from my side. Yeah, Albert, you'd like to
Okay.
add?
It's a great thing that it's anonymous, Jaspreet. So both of us needs to That's super.
Yes.
I just want to add one point also that yeah, when you talk about visibility now it's not only about visibility for last mile, but even for sea freight transportations, multi-modes delivery. Let's say when you talk about first, mid, and last mile, as a manufacturer, I have met with one of the clients that as a manufacturer, I want to know every step of the way. Let's say when we talk about sea freight delivery, it's hard for us to track it, but with now technologies, we can actually do some carrier integrations. There are some players out there specifically on tracking containers and everything, and then integrating with the last mile and mid mile land transportation
Yeah,
tracking. I think it's not only about direct to the end consumers, but even from point to point, from one factory to the distribution centers and so on and so forth, visibility with sea transportation carrier, I think it's something that worth to explore.
definitely. And supply chain visibility, I mean, we actually have done events on this topic, and it is hard to achieve. It's a little bit like a messaging that you're trying to get to your customer.
Right.
There are a lot of hype. It's sometimes very difficult for companies to achieve true visibility across the entire, supply chain. So, but it's a great topic, and we'll probably have another discussion on this. Let's move on to the next question. We got 5 more minutes. Sanjeev is asking, given the volatility of e-commerce, quick commerce, what should be the optimal model for forecasting the demand?
I think it's a very good question, and if I knew this answer, I would be a very very rich man. But let me give you maybe just some comments from experience. Um, there is a triangle of departments that really needs to work on this demand forecast. Of course, it's your marketing team who is planning all your marketing communications, marketing budget investment into visibility, search optimization, and so on. So they need to be the driving force behind the forecasting as a primary, and secondary is your sales operations team who is doing all your visibility historical sales, yeah, by day, by week, by campaign, by month, and everything. So they need to give that, and last but not least is your inventory availability. So that three things, if you combine them in smartly, uh, 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 you will have a more accurate demand forecast for sure. And then, of course, don't forget to communicate this to your operations so that they can execute it.
Okay. Yeah, Albert, you wanted to add something? No? You're good?
No, no.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let's move on maybe to the next question. I'm trying to get as much as I can. Someone is asking, we're expanding cross-border in Southeast Asia. Customs are still a nightmare. Any automation idea? You guys brought up visibility, and definitely custom is probably the dark side of it as well. So can you guys, what's your take on this? Is it getting better? Can companies manage customs when it comes with e-commerce much better now than it used to be? Just Preet?
It's it's not getting better. It's still manual. The problem is
Okay, all
companies
right.
want to get more dynamic and functional, but they can't. So it's from booking to tracking. Tracking at some level is solved. Booking is still very manual in nature. So that's why I think that's one of the main reasons why it's a nightmare. And people then go very static. There are no dynamics, I think. And I think the next wave is going to come here.
Okay. Rustam, what's your experience with customs if you're doing cross-border? Is it still very complicated for you?
Yeah, it is. That's why we don't do a cross-border sales for e-commerce. So it's a good.
So,
Okay.
so really looking forward to blockchain to solve it, but unfortunately it couldn't. Yeah.
And it also doesn't help that we are, let's say, compared to Europe, where all these custom regulations are a little bit more, let's say, harmonized. They're not the same, but they're harmonized compared to APMEA, where you have very diverse customs requirements and also different approaches to managing that. So for us, it's still quite a challenge. So e-commerce wise.
Mm,
It's difficult.
yeah. Albert, I know that you have some e-customs program in Indonesia now. Is it working? Does it help in any ways?
No, but then again, I don't know, depending on the business size, yeah. Let's say when you are small and medium enterprises wants to get things coming from abroad, maybe a consolidations would be something that could ease the complexity, not specifically on dealing with automations, but at least with certainties of whether your items can arrive on time or not. So let's say for small medium enterprises, they can actually collaborate with local organization like importer.org. So this actually, the ideas is actually to consolidate the items in order to ensure that, adequate volume can actually enter Indonesia's in the timely manner. So maybe it's not directly automations, but again, creativity actually comes from this kind of community-based ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Ali, your final take on customs and cross-border?
Yeah, it's as complicated as all of these guys mentioned. While everyone's on trying to do this, I think what has changed recently for different countries is the de minimis as well, the amount that they allow to go by for cross-border items without the custom duties being applied. So, like the similar thing happened in the US, the certain countries here are also reevaluating if this needs to be done because there are certain uh, competitors in the space, in the cross-border space, who are, I wouldn't just dumping it, they're opening much more options, much more lucrative options for different customers, which are also not applicable for the custom duties and are giving fierce competition to local marketplaces as well.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much again. So with this, I want to wrap up this discussion. Thank you very much for all those questions. Some of them, I think we kind of covered a lot of different topics around e-commerce logistics and last mile. It was interesting, but we didn't get to cover a lot of the topics that we prepared. But that's okay. We can probably do another follow-up discussion. And I mentioned that earlier to our panelists that we were looking already to schedule something else probably in September. So we'll keep you posted on the date and we will invite you and we can continue the discussion. It's a very interesting topic. We can, of course, talk a lot more about cross-border as well, which is a all new topic, that we can talk for another hour just on this. Thank you very much again for being with us. Thank you, Ali, Rustam, Jasprit, and Albert. Thanks for your insight and sharing. And we look forward to see you next time at our next discussion. And if you, again, miss part of the discussion, the replay will be made available tomorrow on our platform, chain.net. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Much. Bye bye.